Get this little welfare baby out of my courtroom before she steals something. Judge Howard Bennett flicked his hand at the 15-year-old black girl like brushing off dirt. The all-white gallery exploded, howling, knee-slapping laughter. A woman clutched her purse tighter. Jasmine Davis trembled at the defense table, drowning in a thrift store blazer. Behind her, her father sat shackled in orange. "Your Honor, I'll defend my dad." The room lost it. "Did the monkey say defend?" someone shouted. Bennett glanced at her, lips curled in disgust. "Little girl, go back to whatever hood you crawled out of. This court is for civilized people." Everyone burst into mocking, gloating laughter. But nobody in that courtroom knew what this 15-year-old was hiding. And when she finally revealed it, the judge, the prosecutor, and every person who laughed would never forget her name. 3 months earlier, the Davis home smelled like burnt toast and possibility. Jasmine sat at the kitchen table, debate notes spread across the chipped formica surface, while her father Raymond poured coffee into mismatched mugs. The morning sun cut through their small South Side apartment, illuminating the walls covered in her debate trophies and her late mother's nursing degree, framed and fading, but still proud. "Are you ready for regionals?" Raymond asked, sliding a plate of slightly charred toast toward her. "Born ready." Jasmine grinned, that confident smile that reminded him so much of her mother. "Coach says if I win this one, I'm headed to state." Raymond leaned against the counter, watching his daughter with those eyes that always seemed to carry both pride and worry. He worked 2 jobs, sanitation during the day, volunteering at the West Side Community Center 3 nights a week, but somehow never missed her debates, never missed parent-teacher conferences, never missed being present. "Your mama would have loved to see this," he said quietly. "You got her mind, Jazz, sharp enough to cut through anything. And your stubbornness to back it up." He laughed, that deep rumble that filled their small kitchen with warmth. "Stubbornness kept us alive, baby girl. Don't you forget it." 8-year-old Isaiah stumbled out of the bedroom, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Jasmine immediately switched into mother mode, a role she'd carried since their mom died 4 years ago. She poured him cereal, checked his homework folder, made sure his inhaler was in his backpack. This was their routine. This was their normal. A father who worked himself to exhaustion, a daughter who raised her brother while maintaining straight A's, and a family that somehow made it work on love and determination when money ran short. The garbage truck rumbled outside, Raymond's cue to leave. "Community center tonight?" Jasmine asked. "Basketball program for the kids. Someone's got to show them there's another way, you know?" She knew. Her father had spent the last decade trying to prove that their neighborhood wasn't what the news said it was. That black men could be fathers, volunteers, pillars, that they deserved to be seen as human. He kissed both his children on the forehead and headed out the door, work boots heavy on the stairs. Jasmine had no idea that would be the last normal morning they'd ever have. That evening, she was helping Isaiah with his math homework when the front door exploded inward. Not a knock, not a warrant announcement, just wood splintering, hinges screaming, and suddenly their living room was full of police officers with guns drawn and flashlights blinding. "Raymond Davis on the ground, now!" Her father had been sitting on the couch, still in his community center shirt, a basketball tucked under his arm. He dropped it, hands up instantly, muscle memory from a lifetime of knowing how this worked. "There's been a mistake," Raymond said, voice steady despite the terror in his eyes. "I haven't—" "Shut up!" Detective Samuel Morrison stepped forward, yanking Raymond's arms behind his back. The handcuffs clicked with a finality that made Jasmine's stomach drop. "Raymond Davis, you're under arrest for armed robbery of Phillips Corner store and assault with a deadly weapon." "What?" Jasmine jumped up, putting herself between the officers and her father. "That's impossible! Dad, tell them—" "I didn't do this." Raymond's eyes locked onto hers, desperate and pleading. "Jazz, I swear to God, I didn't do this." "Yeah, they all say that." Morrison hauled Raymond toward the door. We got 3 witnesses to put you at the scene. The gun matches the description. You're done. I was at the community center. Raymond's voice cracked. There are people who saw me, signed the sheet. I was running the basketball. Save it for the judge, Davis. Isaiah started crying, small hands clutching Jasmine's shirt as police officers trampled through their home, searching drawers, overturning furniture, treating their small sanctuary like a crime scene. Jasmine watched her father, this man who'd never even gotten a speeding ticket, who volunteered his free time, who raised his children alone with grace and dignity, get dragged out of their home like a criminal. Neighbors pressed against windows, phone cameras recording. Tomorrow, their faces would be on the news. Another black man was arrested. Another family was destroyed. At the door, Raymond turned back, chains rattling. Jazz, listen to me. I didn't do this. You hear me? I didn't do this. I know, Dad. Her voice didn't shake, couldn't shake. Isaiah needed her strong. I'll fix this. I promise. The door slammed shut. The apartment fell silent except for Isaiah's sobbing. Jasmine stood in the wreckage of their living room, her father's coffee mug still on the table from this morning, and made a decision that would change everything. She walked to her bedroom, pulled out her laptop, and began to research. Because if the system wouldn't save her father, she'd have to learn how to save him herself. The county jail visitation room smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Jasmine sat on a cold plastic chair, separated from her father by thick plexiglass that had been scratched by 1,000 desperate hands before hers. Raymond appeared through the metal door in an orange jumpsuit that hung off his frame. He'd lost weight in just 2 weeks. But it wasn't the weight that made Jasmine's breath catch. It was the bruises. His left eye was swollen shut. His lip was split. Dark purple marks ran down his neck. Dad, what happened? Jasmine pressed her hand against the glass. Raymond picked up the phone receiver with shaking hands. It's nothing, baby girl, just don't lie to me. He exhaled slowly, the sound crackling through the cheap speaker. Someone spread a rumor. Said I did things to kids. You know how it goes in here. Child predators don't last long. Jasmine's vision blurred with rage. But you're not... Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they believe. Raymond's good eye met hers. Protective custody ain't protecting much. I can't survive 6 weeks here, Jazz. I just can't. She watched her father, this strong man who'd raised 2 children alone, who'd never shown weakness, break down crying through prison plexiglass. I'll get you out, Jasmine whispered. I promise. How? You're 15. Sarah's trying, but she's got 5 minutes for my case. The system don't care about the truth. It cares about convictions. Then I'll make it care. Raymond looked at his daughter, saw something in her eyes that scared and amazed him. Baby, you can't fight this. Watch me! The phone clicked. The time was up. A guard yanked Raymond away. Jasmine watched her father shuffle back through the metal door in chains, moving like a man who'd already accepted his fate. She refused to accept it. That night, Jasmine sat at the public library's computer, diving into District Attorney Charles Wilson's record. What she found made her stomach turn. Wilson had prosecuted 47 cases in 3 years. 43 convictions. Every single one involved black defendants accused of crimes in or near white neighborhoods. Every single one relied heavily on eyewitness testimony. She clicked through news articles, court records, appeal denials. The pattern was undeniable. Then she found it, a speech Wilson gave at a Civic Club luncheon 2 years ago. She read his quote 3 times. Some communities breed crime. Some individuals carry it in their DNA. My job is to protect law-abiding citizens from those who refuse to be civilized. The dog whistle was so loud it was barely a whistle at all. Jasmine dug deeper. Found that Judge Howard Bennett had been Wilson's mentor. Found photos of them at conferences, arms around each other. Caption, tough-on-crime team. They weren't even hiding it. This was a machine, and everyone just let it run. She cross-referenced judges who presided over Wilson's cases. Bennett's name appeared on 32 of them. 31 convictions. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Jasmine printed everything and walked home through streets that felt different now. Every police car made her flinch. The world had revealed itself as hostile. At home, the eviction notice waited on the kitchen table. 15 days. They were 15 days from losing their apartment. Raymond's paychecks had stopped. Rent was due. Utilities past due. Isaiah's asthma medication was running low, $70 they didn't have. Jasmine opened the refrigerator. 3 eggs, half a loaf of bread, a mostly empty jar of peanut butter. Her phone rang. Aunt Patricia. "Baby, I heard about your daddy. This is too much for you to handle alone." "I'm handling it." "You're a child, Jasmine. Let me take Isaiah for a while. You can focus on school. Let the lawyer do her job. Her job is 5 minutes split between 63 cases. Then let her do those 5 minutes. What can you possibly do that a trained attorney can't?" The question hung in the air. Jasmine looked at her college applications. Georgetown, Harvard, Yale, all half-finished, all requiring essays about overcoming adversity that now felt like cosmic jokes. "I can care more," Jasmine said quietly. "I can care more than anyone else in that courtroom." "Caring doesn't win cases, baby. Evidence does. Lawyers do." "Then I'll find the evidence. I'll become the lawyer." Patricia sighed. "You're throwing your future away." Jasmine hung up. She sat in darkness, listening to Isaiah's wheezing breath from the bedroom, feeling the weight of impossible choices crushing her shoulders. She could send Isaiah to Patricia's, focus on school, let Sarah handle the case, watch her father get convicted, watch their family disintegrate, or she could fight. She pulled up a boarding school application for Isaiah. Good medical care, no cost to families in crisis. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Are you giving up on Daddy?" Jasmine spun around. Isaiah stood in the doorway, small and fragile in 2 big pajamas, holding his inhaler. "No, baby, never. Mommy used to say you could do anything." Isaiah climbed into her lap. She was right, wasn't she? Jasmine looked at her little brother, then at her mother's photo on the wall, that woman who died fighting a system that didn't value her life. "Yeah," Jasmine whispered, closing the application. She was right. She opened a new window and searched. "Can a minor assist in legal defense?" The next morning, Jasmine met Sarah at a coffee shop near the courthouse. Sarah looked worse than before. Dark circles, coffee-stained blouse, the weight of too many lost battles in her eyes. "I need to be honest with you," Sarah said. "The DA offered a plea deal. 8 years instead of potentially 25. My father is innocent. The store owner identified him in a lineup. 3 witnesses place him at the scene. The jury will be mostly white, and Wilson is very good at what he does." Sarah finally looked up. "I've been doing this for 12 years. I've learned to recognize which battles I can win." "And my dad isn't one of them?" Sarah's silence was enough. "What if I told you I found timeline inconsistencies? What if the lineup was contaminated? My dad was the only black man who matched the age range? What if Wilson has a pattern of targeting black defendants with weak evidence?" Sarah leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" Jasmine pulled out her folders, organized, color-coded, meticulously researched. Police reports with highlighted contradictions, witness statements that didn't align, GPS data from Raymond's work truck, the community center sign-in sheet with his signature at 9:18 p.m. when the robbery occurred at 9:52. Sarah flipped through the pages, her expression shifting from skepticism to surprise to hope. "How did you find all this?" "I read everything. Every document you gave me, every public record I could access, every case Wilson prosecuted in 5 years. Jasmine met Sarah's eyes. "I know you're overwhelmed. but I have every waking minute until trial. Sarah sat back, studying this 15-year-old who'd just presented legal research that would have taken weeks to compile. Even if this is valid, you can't present it. You're not a lawyer. Rule 1.06 of Criminal Procedure, subsection C, Jasmine said without hesitation. The court may permit a non-attorney family member to assist in defense when circumstances warrant. Sarah blinked. How do you even know that? State versus Morrison, 2019. My daughter helped present evidence. Conviction overturned. That's a technicality almost never granted. And even if I petition, Judge Bennett will humiliate you. He'll make an example of you. Let him try. Sarah looked at this child and saw something she'd stopped seeing in herself years ago. Fire. Belief. The dangerous conviction that justice might actually be possible. If I do this, Bennett will destroy you the moment you make a mistake. He'll mock you, shut you down, probably hold me in contempt. I know. Your father could get 25 years if we lose. What does he get if we do nothing? 8 years in a cage for a crime he didn't commit? Jasmine's voice didn't waver. At least this way we go down fighting. Sarah gathered the folders, then looked at Jasmine with something close to admiration. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, Jasmine said. But I'm all my dad has. Sarah pulled out her laptop and began typing. Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget. Jasmine spread the case files across her bedroom floor at 2 in the morning. Her eyes burned from hours of reading, but she couldn't stop. Every page revealed another crack in the prosecution's story. The police report said the robbery occurred at 9:47 p.m. But witness number 1, Thomas Walker, claimed he saw it happen around 9:30. Witness number 2 said close to 10 o'clock. The store's security camera timestamp showed 9:52 p.m. 17 minutes of conflicting testimony. Nobody seemed to notice, or nobody cared. Jasmine highlighted each discrepancy in different colors. Red for timeline contradictions, yellow for description inconsistencies, blue for evidence that supported her father's alibi. The store owner described the robber as 6'2". Raymond was 5'9". The weapon was described as a black automatic by one witness, a silver revolver by another, a dark handgun by the third. The amount stolen changed with each statement, $200, $350, $185. And buried in the files, ignored by everyone, was Raymond's work truck GPS data. It showed him at Westside Community Center from 9:15 to 10:30 p.m. The sign-in sheet confirmed it. Raymond Davis, 9:18 p.m. Jasmine leaned back against her bed. 1 contradiction was a mistake. 2 was carelessness. 5 was a pattern. This wasn't evidence. This was a story someone needed to be true. Over the next 3 weeks, Jasmine transformed her bedroom into a war room. Debate training became cross-examination practice. Her coach, Ms. Rodriguez, played hostile witness while Jasmine refined questions, learned to control tone, never to ask what she didn't already know the answer to. Leading questions on cross, Ms. Rodriguez reminded her. You're not seeking information. You're telling a story through their answers. Jasmine wrote and rewrote examination outlines, practiced in her mirror, recorded herself to catch nervous habits, voice going up when uncertain, touching her hair when stressed. She eliminated every tell. On weekends, she visited Philip's corner store, timed the walk from the community center, 12 minutes normal pace, 9 if running, photographed security camera angles, talked to neighborhood residents who remembered that night. 3 people mentioned seeing 2 men leave together after the robbery. The police report only mentioned 1. At home, Jasmine created timeline boards, red string connected contradictions, photographs, witness statements, GPS data. She was building an alternative narrative the prosecution had deliberately ignored. But contradictions weren't enough. She needed legal authority. Hours in the law library led her to Rule 1.06 of Criminal Procedure. She read State versus Morrison 3 times, memorizing the appellate reasoning. A non-attorney family member could assist when circumstances warranted. It had happened before. The law was on her side. She just needed a judge willing to allow it. 1 week before trial, Jasmine arrived at Sarah's office with 3 boxes of organized evidence. Sarah looked up, coffee frozen halfway to her mouth. "What is all this?" "Everything they missed." Jasmine set the boxes down. "Timeline contradictions, witness inconsistencies, alibi evidence, legal precedent for my participation." Sarah opened the first box. Color-coded folders, each labeled with specific legal issues. She pulled one out. "Eyewitness identification problems." Her eyes widened. "The lineup photo," Jasmine said. "Look at it. Really look." 6 men against a height chart. 5 were white or Latino. Raymond was the only black man, the only one near the age witnesses described. "Textbook contamination," Sarah whispered. "And nobody objected." Jasmine pulled another folder. "GPS data puts Dad at the community center. Wilson's timeline ignores it completely. His entire case rests on eyewitnesses who can't agree on when it happened, what the weapon looked like, or how much was stolen." Sarah flipped through folders, expression shifting to anger. Anger at missing this. Anger at a system that made missing it inevitable with 63 cases. "How did you find all this?" "I had time, motivation, nothing to lose." Sarah sat back. "We need to present this properly. One mistake and Bennett excludes everything. Then we don't make mistakes. This isn't a debate tournament. Bennett will look for any reason. I know." Jasmine pulled her final folder. "That's why I need to question Thomas Walker." "Absolutely not. Bennett will never—" "He will if you frame it right. Appeal to his ego. He'll want to watch me fail." Sarah stared at this 15-year-old strategizing like a seasoned attorney. "You want him to underestimate you." "He already does. Everyone does. That's the advantage. If this backfires, your dad gets 25 years. What happens if we do nothing? 25 anyway, or 8 he doesn't deserve?" Jasmine's voice was steel. "At least this way we fight." Sarah looked at the evidence boxes, then at Jasmine's face. She remembered why she'd become a public defender, before the system ground her down. "Okay, but we do this right. I'll file the motion, prepare you for every objection." She paused. "Bennett will try to destroy you." "I know. That's what I'm counting on. That's what—" And the motion was filed the next morning. Request for minor family member to assist in defense presentation. Word spread through the courthouse. Attorneys laughed over coffee. The Davis case keeps getting sadder. Wilson called it a desperate publicity stunt. Bennett called Sarah to chambers that afternoon, face already red. "Are you out of your mind? This is a courtroom, not bring your daughter to work day. The precedent is clear, Your Honor. She's found discrepancies. Then you present them. That's your job. With respect, I'd like the option. I'll allow her to sit at the defense table." Bennett's finger pointed like a weapon. "But the moment she opens her mouth inappropriately, I'll hold you in contempt. Clear?" "Crystal clear, Your Honor." Outside, Jasmine waited on a hallway bench. "You're in," Sarah said, "but he's going to try to destroy you." "I know." Jasmine stood, straightening her blazer. "That's what I'm counting on." Sarah studied her. "You're really ready?" Jasmine thought about her father's bruised face through plexiglass, Isaiah's wheezing breath, her mother's unfinished law degree, every person who'd looked at her and seen nothing but a poor black girl from the wrong neighborhood. "I've been ready my whole life," Jasmine said. "I just didn't know it yet." 48 hours before trial, Jasmine sat in her library carrel reviewing cross-examination notes. The building was nearly empty, just her and the night security guard. She didn't notice the envelope at first. It appeared while she'd gone to the restroom, a plain manila envelope, unsealed. slipped under her Carol. No name, no markings. Jasmine looked around. The library was silent. Nobody nearby. Inside was a USB drive. Nothing else. No note, no explanation. Every instinct said this could be a trap, contaminated evidence, a setup. She should give it to Sarah, maintain a chain of custody. But curiosity won. She used a public computer, not her laptop, and plugged in the drive. One file. Phillips Store Full Security 2 MP4. Her hands trembled as she clicked. Black and white security footage, time-stamped, the night of the robbery. But this wasn't the 30-second clip in the police report. This was 15 full minutes. 9:35 p.m. A white man entered the store. Medium build, baseball cap, browsing aisles like any customer. He matched the general description witnesses gave of the robber. 9:45 p.m. The same man is still there, looking at magazines near the front, glancing at his watch. Waiting. 9:52 p.m. A second man entered. Purposeful, aggressive, went straight to the counter. 9:54 p.m. The robbery. The second man pulled a gun, demanded money while the first man, the one who'd been waiting, stood still, watching. Not hiding, not afraid. Watching like he was supposed to be there. 9:56 p.m. Both men walked out together, side by side. Got into the same car parked just out of frame. Jasmine replayed it 3 times. The police had submitted only 30 seconds, 9:52 to 9:53, showing just the robbery. They'd cut everything before and after. Cut the first man entering and waiting. Cut them leaving together. This wasn't incomplete evidence. This was deliberately edited evidence. The witness, Thomas Walker, had claimed he entered during the robbery, was terrified, had hidden. But this video showed someone entering 10 minutes early, calmly waiting, coordinating. Walker and the actual robber were working together. Jasmine enhanced the final frames using library software. The car they walked to, she could make out a partial license plate. JKT3, she cross-referenced the detective's notes. That prefix belonged to a rental company. This wasn't mistaken identity. This was a setup. Walker and his accomplice committed the robbery. Then Walker returned to identify a suspect from a contaminated lineup. They picked Raymond because he was the only black man who roughly matched the age range, and the system had been happy to provide him. Jasmine sat back, staring at the frozen frame. She had proof. Undeniable proof the prosecution's star witness was the real criminal. But she had a problem. Anonymous source. No chain of custody. No way to prove it hadn't been tampered with. If she gave it to Sarah now, a judge might exclude it. 3 choices. Give it to Sarah and risk exclusion, go public and risk mistrial, or use the information to guide cross-examination without introducing the video. Jasmine ejected the USB drive and slipped it into her pocket. She wouldn't introduce the video. Not yet. She'd use what she knew to cross-examine Walker, forcing him to lie under oath about details only someone who'd watched this footage would know. Let him commit to his story. Then expose the contradictions. And if that didn't work, she still had the nuclear option. Her mother used to say the truth doesn't need tricks. It just needs someone brave enough to speak it. Jasmine copied the file to a separate drive, deleted her browser history. Tomorrow, Thomas Walker will take the stand. And he had no idea what was waiting for him. The courthouse steps were packed with news vans and protesters when Jasmine arrived on trial day. Signs waved in the morning air. Justice for Raymond Davis on one side, law and order on the other. Reporters shouted questions she didn't answer. She walked through the metal detectors holding her case files, Sarah beside her. Inside, the marble floors echoed with footsteps and whispered conversations. Everyone was watching. The courtroom was already full when they entered. Community supporters filled the left side of the gallery. On the right sat courthouse regulars and what looked like Wilson's invited guests, all white, all wearing expressions that said they'd already decided the verdict. Raymond was brought in wearing shackles. When he saw Jasmine at the defense table, his eyes filled with tears. She gave him a small nod. Stay strong. D.A. Charles Wilson sat at the prosecution table, confident smirk already in place. He'd dressed for cameras, expensive suit, flag pin on his lapel, the image of righteous authority. All rise. Judge Bennett entered. Everyone stood. He took his seat, surveying the courtroom with obvious annoyance at the crowd. His eyes landed on Jasmine and stayed there. Ms. Thompson, Bennett's voice carried across the silent room. Is this the assistant we discussed? Yes, Your Honor. Jasmine Davis, the defendant's daughter. Bennett's face hardened. Let's get one thing clear. This is my courtroom. Any disruption, any outburst from this child, and she's removed immediately. I'll hold you in contempt if she steps out of line. Understood? Understood, Your Honor. Good. Bennett turned to the jury pool. Let's begin jury selection. It took 3 hours to seat 12 jurors, 10 white, 2 black. Jasmine watched Wilson use his peremptory challenges to eliminate every black juror he could. The final panel looked exactly like she'd expected. People who'd never been profiled, never been followed in stores, never had their lives destroyed by a system that saw their skin as evidence of guilt. Opening statements began just before lunch. Wilson stood, buttoned his jacket, and approached the jury box like a man greeting old friends. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is simple. On the night of October 15th, Raymond Davis walked into Phillips' corner store with a gun and terrorized a hard-working business owner. He threatened to kill Mr. Gerald Phillips. He stole $340, and he did it because he thought he could get away with it. Wilson pointed at Raymond. That man sitting right there. 3 witnesses saw him, identified him. We'll testify under oath. The evidence is overwhelming. The verdict should be swift. That is the face of crime in our community. Several jurors nodded. One woman clutched her purse tighter. Wilson sat down, satisfied. Sarah stood for the defense, and Jasmine could see her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was steady. Members of the jury, the prosecution wants you to believe this is simple. But nothing about this case is simple. Raymond Davis is a father, a sanitation worker, a community volunteer with 0 criminal record. On the night in question, he was exactly where he says he was, at the Westside Community Center, running a basketball program for kids. Sarah gestured to the evidence table. We will show you GPS data proving he was there, sign-in sheets with his signature. But more importantly, we'll show you that the prosecution's timeline doesn't add up. Their witnesses contradict each other. Their evidence has holes big enough to drive doubt through. During her statement, Jasmine passed Sarah a note. Sarah paused, read it, looked at Jasmine, then continued, voice stronger. The prosecution's case rests entirely on eyewitness testimony. But what if those eyes lied? What if this entire case is built on a foundation that crumbles under examination? Wilson shot to his feet. Objection. Counsel is making accusations without evidence. Sustained. Bennett glared at Sarah. Ms. Thompson, stick to facts you can prove. Yes, Your Honor. But Sarah had planted the seed. Jasmine saw 2 jurors exchange glances. After lunch, Wilson called his first witness. The state calls Mr. Gerald Phillips. The store owner walked to the stand, white, 62, nervous but sympathetic. He was sworn in and sat down, hands folded in his lap like a man at church. Wilson took him through the robbery step by step. Phillips described it in careful detail, voice shaking at the right moments. I'll never forget that face, Phillips said, pointing at Raymond. He looked right at me, said he'd kill me if I called the police. And you're certain the defendant is the man who robbed you? Absolutely certain. That's him. Wilson nodded, satisfied. No further questions. The jury looked convinced. Jasmine saw it in their faces, this nice old man, terrorized in his own store. Their sympathy was already decided. Sarah stood for cross-examination. She was gentle, respectful, but firm. Mr. Phillips, how long did the robbery last? Maybe 2-3 minutes. And the lighting in your store that night? Good. I keep it bright for customers. You'd never seen the robber before? No, never. Sarah established the timeline, got him to confirm details, but couldn't shake his identification. Phillips was too sympathetic, too certain. Then Jasmine passed another note. Sarah read it, hesitated, then asked, Mr. Phillips, when did you first call 911? Right after he left. And when did the police arrive? Maybe 15-20 minutes later. During those 15 minutes, did anyone else enter your store? Phillips paused. I don't think so. I was pretty shaken up. You don't think so? Or you're certain? Objection, Wilson said. Asked and answered. Sustained. Sarah sat down. The seed of doubt was small, but it was there. Bennett called recess for the day. As the courtroom emptied, Wilson approached the defense table, coffee in hand. He accidentally bumped Jasmine, spilling it across her case files. Oops. Sorry, kid. Didn't see you there. His smile was cruel. You're so small. People watched. Some filmed. Jasmine calmly pulled her files away, dabbing them with napkins. She looked up at Wilson, her voice steady. It's okay, Mr. Wilson. I understand. Sometimes when you're focused on the wrong target, you miss what's right in front of you. Wilson's smirk faltered. You'll see what I mean tomorrow. Jasmine walked away, leaving him standing there. Tomorrow, Thomas Walker would take the stand, and everything would change. During lunch recess, Jasmine locked herself in the courthouse bathroom. Finally alone, she let the weight hit her. Her hands shook as she gripped the sink. Bennett's condescension, Wilson's cruelty, the jury's skeptical faces, Phillips's testimony that had them nodding. She replayed Bennett's words. Any outburst from this child. What if they were right? What if she was just a 15-year-old playing dress-up, gambling with her father's life on nothing but belief in her own intelligence? What if intelligence wasn't enough? The bathroom door opened. 2 women entered, talking. That poor child. Bennett shouldn't be allowed to talk to her that way. She shouldn't be in there at all. It's embarrassing. For who? She's fighting for her daddy. That takes more courage than anything that a judge has ever done. Footsteps leaving. Jasmine looked at her reflection, saw her mother's eyes, heard her voice. You can do anything, Jazz. She washed her face, straightened her blazer, walked out. Sarah waited in an empty conference room. I should have prepared you better for Bennett's hostility, Sarah said. It's fine. Actually, it's perfect. How is public humiliation perfect? Because now the jury sees him as a bully. When I prove my case, they'll remember. Jasmine pulled out her notes. This is strategy, not emotion. Sarah studied her. You're thinking 3 moves ahead. I have to be. Jasmine laid out her timeline chart. When Walker takes the stand, I need to ask the questions. If you're wrong, I'm not wrong, trust me. Sarah looked at the evidence, then at this remarkable girl who'd become the smartest person in the case. Bennett will never allow it. Frame it as my one chance to participate meaningfully, appeal to his ego. He'll want to watch me fail publicly. Sarah realized what Jasmine was doing. You want him underestimating you. He already does. Everyone does. That's my weapon. If this backfires, your dad gets 25 years. What happens if we play it safe? 25 anyway. Jasmine's voice was steel. At least this way we fight. You're not going down. I won't let you. Then help me stand up. In the hallway, Wilson was talking to his assistant, loud enough to be overheard. The girl's a sideshow. Let her play lawyer. Makes our job easier when she falls apart. He saw Jasmine, walked toward her deliberately, shoulder-checking her. His briefcase knocked her files to the floor. "Watch where you're going, kid. Stay in your lane." People stared, some with pity, others with amusement. Jasmine gathered her papers, stood, and looked at Wilson's retreating back. Let them underestimate her. Tomorrow, they'd learn the truth. Court resumed at 2. The gallery was more packed. Word had spread about the child lawyer. Bennett entered, annoyed by the attention. Sarah stood. "Your Honor, I have the motion regarding witness examination." Bennett's eyes narrowed. "What kind of motion?" "The defense requests Ms. Davis be permitted to conduct cross-examination of the state's next witness, Thomas Walker." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, laughs. Bennett's face reddened. "You cannot be serious." "The precedent is clear, Your Honor. Rule 1.06, subsection C, State versus Morrison. I know the precedent." Bennett looked at Jasmine like she was an insect. "You want this child to examine a witness?" "Yes, Your Honor, it's her constitutional right." Bennett leaned back, cruel smile forming. "Fine. Let the child have her moment. When it falls apart, we'll proceed with actual attorneys." He turned to the jury. "Please bear with us during this irregularity." The jury looked uncomfortable. Bennett hammered his gavel. "The state may call its next witness." Wilson stood, radiating confidence. "The state calls Mr. Thomas Walker." The doors opened. Thomas Walker entered. 34, white, clean-cut, pressed shirt and tie. He looked like every jury's image of an honest citizen. He walked to the witness stand with rehearsed confidence, sworn in, sat down, folded his hands calmly. Wilson took him through direct examination. Walker described entering the store around 9:50 p.m., seeing a black man matching Raymond's description, terror of watching the robbery, hiding behind a display. "I'll never forget his face," Walker said, looking at Raymond. "Those eyes, that's definitely him." The jury was buying it. Walker was perfect, just nervous enough to seem authentic, detailed enough to seem credible. Wilson finished. "Your witness, Ms. Davis." Bennett looked at Jasmine. "Your witness, young lady. Try not to embarrass yourself." The gallery held its breath. Jasmine stood slowly, gathered her notes, walked to the lectern. Every eye on her. The small black girl in the too big blazer, about to question a grown white man who'd already convinced the jury. She adjusted the microphone down. The courtroom waited. Thomas Walker smiled slightly. He had no idea what was coming. Jasmine's voice came out steady. "Good afternoon, Mr. Walker." Walker leaned back, dismissive. "Afternoon. Thank you for being here. I just have a few questions." "Sure, sweetheart." A ripple went through the gallery. The condescension was noted. Jasmine didn't react. "You testified you entered the store around 9:50 p.m., correct?" "Yes." "Not 9:45 or 9:55, but specifically 9:50? "Well, around then." "But you told the police 9:50 in your statement. You were certain then?" "I guess so. About that time." "So you're less certain now than 3 months ago?" Wilson stood. "Objection, argumentative." "Ms. Davis," Bennett said, "ask questions, don't argue." "Yes, Your Honor." Jasmine turned back. "You said you ducked behind a display. Which display?" "The chip display by the coolers." "So you were hiding, scared for your life?" "Yes, terrified." "But you could see the robber clearly enough to identify him months later?" "He was only a few feet away." "While hiding behind the chip display?" "Yes." Jasmine pulled out a diagram. "Your Honor, may I approach?" Bennett waved. "Proceed." She showed Walker the diagram. Jurors leaned forward. "Is this an accurate layout of Phillips' corner store?" Walker studied it, less confident now. "Looks about right." This is the chip display by the coolers? Yes. And the register is here, 22 feet away, 3 aisles between them? I guess. So you were hiding, terrified, with 3 aisles and 22 feet between you and the robbery, but saw his face clearly enough to identify him 3 months later? Walker shifted. I have good eyesight. A juror wrote something down. Mr. Walker, when did you give your statement to the police? The next day. Did you return to the store that night? No. You went straight home? Yes. How did you get to the police station the next day? Walker looked confused. I drove. In your own car? Yes. Not a rental car? Walker froze. What? Simple question. Did you drive a rental car to the police station? No, my own car. What about the night of the robbery? Wilson jumped up. Objection, relevance? I'm establishing credibility, Your Honor. Bennett leaned forward, interested. I'll allow it. Answer, Mr. Walker. Walker's forehead showed sweat. I don't remember. You don't remember renting a car 3 months ago? I might have. My car was in the shop. Jasmine pulled a document. Your Honor, Defense Exhibit A. She held up a rental agreement. The courtroom went silent. This is a rental agreement from Quick Rent, dated October 14th, the day before the robbery. The renter is Thomas Walker. The gallery gasped. Wilson shot up. Where did she get that? Public record, Your Honor. Obtained through proper legal request. Bennett studied it. I'll allow it. Continue. Jasmine turned to Walker, whose face had paled. Mr. Walker, why did you need a rental? My car was in the shop. Really? Another document. I have your mechanic's records. No service that week. Walker's jaw clenched. I forget. Maybe the week before. Where is this rental car now? I returned it. Police never examined it? I don't know. You don't know if police examined evidence related to a crime you witnessed? Walker gripped the armrests. I just returned it. Jasmine pulled out an enlarged photograph. Do you recognize this license plate? JKT 385? Walker stared, silent. That's your rental car. And this photograph shows it parked outside Phillips' Corner store at 9:36 p.m., 16 minutes before the robbery. The courtroom erupted. Bennett's gavel pounded. And this, Jasmine produced another photo, shows the same vehicle leaving at 9:58 p.m. with 2 occupants. Walker stood suddenly. This is insane. I'm the victim. Sit down, Mr. Walker, Bennett commanded. She's twisting everything. Sit down now. Walker sat, chest heaving. Jasmine remained calm. Did you know the actual robber before that night? No. Did you coordinate with him? Did someone pay you to identify Raymond Davis? Walker's face twisted. I want a lawyer. I'm not answering anymore. The courtroom exploded. Bennett's gavel thundered. Order! Sarah stood. Your Honor, the prosecution's case rests on this witness if he's invoking Fifth Amendment rights. Bennett raised his hand. He looked at Wilson with fury. Mr. Wilson, do you have any other evidence linking the defendant to this crime? Wilson stood, drained. The store owner's identification? Based on the lineup this witness confirmed. Any physical evidence? DNA? Fingerprints? Wilson's silence answered. Bennett turned to Walker. Mr. Walker, remain available for questioning. Do not leave the jurisdiction. He looked at the jury. Disregard this witness's testimony entirely. Then Bennett did something unexpected. He looked at Jasmine, really looked at her. Ms. Davis, that was exceptional work. The words hung in the air. A judge who'd mocked her hours ago, now acknowledging her in front of everyone. The court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Mr. Wilson, you better have answers. That evening, the video of Jasmine's cross-examination went viral. Millions of views in hours. News anchors called it the most remarkable courtroom moment of the decade. Legal experts dissected every question. Law professors announced they'd be teaching it in their classes. But Jasmine didn't watch any of it. She sat with Isaiah in their small apartment, helping him with homework like it was any other night, trying to pretend her hands weren't still shaking. The next morning, the courthouse steps were packed with 3 times as many people. This time, when Jasmine walked through, the crowd erupted in applause. Signs read, "Justice for Jasmine" and "Believe in her." She kept her head down, walked inside with Sarah. The courtroom was standing room only. Every major news network had cameras positioned outside. Inside, the energy had completely shifted. People looked at Jasmine differently now, not as a child playing dress-up, but as someone who'd exposed a conspiracy. Raymond was brought in. When he saw his daughter, he mouthed, "I'm so proud of you." Judge Bennett entered. The room fell silent. He looked different today. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like shame. "Before we begin," Bennett said, his voice quieter than yesterday, "I need to address something." He turned to Jasmine. "Ms. Davis, would you approach the bench, please? You too, counsel." Jasmine and Sarah walked forward. At the bench, Bennett spoke quietly. "Ms. Davis, what you did yesterday. I've been on the bench for 23 years. I've seen thousands of attorneys. Very few have demonstrated the skill, preparation, and courage you showed." He paused. "I owe you an apology. A public one. I underestimated you severely. I let my preconceptions cloud my judgment. That was wrong." Jasmine didn't know what to say. She simply nodded. Bennett turned to Wilson. "And you, counselor, better have a very good explanation for how that witness ended up in your case." Wilson stood, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Your Honor, after reviewing the evidence that came to light yesterday, and after interviewing Mr. Walker this morning," he took a breath, "the state moves to withdraw all charges against Raymond Davis." The courtroom exploded. Raymond collapsed forward, head in his hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. Sarah grabbed Jasmine's arm, tears streaming down her face. Bennett hammered his gavel. "Order! I want to order!" When the room quieted, Bennett continued. "Mr. Davis, please stand." Raymond stood, chains rattling, barely able to hold himself upright. "The charges against you are dismissed with prejudice. You are free to go." Bennett nodded to the bailiff. "Remove those restraints, now." The bailiff unlocked the handcuffs. They fell to the floor with a metallic crash that echoed through the silent courtroom. Raymond stared at his free hands like he couldn't believe they were real. "Dad!" Jasmine ran to him. He caught her in his arms, both of them crying, holding each other like they'd never let go. The gallery was on its feet, applause thundering through the room. Even some jurors were wiping tears. Isaiah burst through the courtroom doors. Aunt Patricia had brought him. He ran to his father and sister, and the 3 of them held each other while flashbulbs popped and people cheered. Bennett didn't stop it. He sat back and let the moment happen. When the noise finally died down, Bennett spoke again. "Ms. Davis, this court has seen many attorneys over the years. Few with your skill, none with your courage." He paused. "The legal profession will be very fortunate to have you someday." The applause started again. Bennett turned to Wilson. "As for you, Mr. Wilson, the Bar Association will be receiving a full report. I'm also ordering an immediate review of every case you've prosecuted in the last 5 years where conviction relied primarily on eyewitness testimony." Wilson said nothing. His career was over, and everyone knew it. Bennett adjourned the court. Outside on the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed. Jasmine stood with her father and brother, Sarah, beside them, eyed. "Jasmine, how does it feel?" a reporter shouted. Raymond answered instead, his arm around his daughter. "My baby girl just saved my life. That's how it feels." "What's next for you, Jasmine?" She looked at her father, then at the cameras. I'm going back to school. I've got college applications to finish. But I'm also going to keep fighting for people like my dad, people the system tries to throw away. Will you become a lawyer? Jasmine smiled. I already am one. I just need the paperwork to catch up. The crowd laughed and cheered. Later, Sarah pulled Jasmine aside. I'm leaving the public defender's office, starting my own practice. Defense work for people who can't afford it. She paused. I'd like you to intern for me next summer, if you're interested. I'm interested. Good. Because we've already gotten 43 calls from families who think their loved ones were wrongfully convicted. Apparently, you started something. Jasmine looked back at the courthouse, at the building where she'd been mocked and dismissed, where she'd proven everyone wrong. Good, she said. It's about time someone did. 6 months later, the Davis family sat around their dinner table, together, free, whole. Raymond had been promoted to supervisor. The eviction notice was a memory. Isaiah's asthma was controlled, and he talked about becoming a lawyer like his sister. Jasmine's acceptance letters covered the refrigerator. Georgetown Law offered a full scholarship. Your case study convinced us. We need voices like yours. But the biggest change happened beyond their home. Thomas Walker was arrested, turned state's evidence. He'd been paid $5,000 to frame Raymond. 12 other cases were under review. A pattern of wrongful convictions was being exposed. D.A. Wilson resigned. The state bar opened investigations. Judge Bennett requested reassignment to civil court, admitting he needed to examine his own biases. The system that tried to destroy Raymond Davis was being held accountable. Jasmine now worked on her next case, a mother in Detroit whose son was convicted on questionable eyewitness testimony. The woman had seen Jasmine's story, reached out, begged for help. Raymond appeared in her doorway. Saving the world when you should be sleeping? Jasmine smiled. Someone has to, Dad. He kissed her forehead. Your mama would be so proud. After he left, Jasmine stared at her mother's photo, that woman who'd fought and lost, but raised a daughter who refused to accept losing. I'm just getting started, Mama. So here's the question for you. Yes, you right now. When have you been told you're too small to matter? What truth are you afraid to speak? Whose injustice are you ignoring because you think someone else will handle it? Jasmine Davis was 15 with a thrift store blazer and a laptop. No law degree, no money, no power except the power to refuse injustice. And she changed everything. Not because she was special, because she refused to believe she wasn't. Your voice matters. Your courage counts. Your action creates change. Someone needs you to be brave right now. Someone needs you to stand up. Someone needs you to prove that justice isn't about who has power. It's about who has courage to demand it. If this story moved you, share it. Like this video. Subscribe to Black Sage for more stories of people who refuse to stay silent. Because every time we share these stories, we remind someone else they're not powerless. The courtroom is everywhere. The judge is watching. It's your turn to speak.
A judge who called her a welfare baby ended up apologizing to her in open court. But that's not the part that keeps me up at night. Jasmine Davis was 15 years old. No law degree, no connections, just a thrift store blazer, a laptop, and a father she refused to let the system destroy. She exposed what professional lawyers missed for years. D.A. Wilson prosecuted 47 cases in 3 years, 43 convictions, every single defendant was black. Judge Bennett presided over 32 of Wilson's cases, 31 guilty verdicts. This was a bad luck. This was a machine designed to convict. Professional lawyers saw the same evidence Jasmine found. timeline contradictions, contaminated lineup photos, GPS alibi data. Jasmine had what they didn't: time to care, discretion to fight, and a father she absolutely refused to lose to a broken system. You know what breaks my heart? Jasmine shouldn't have had to do this. A 15-year-old girl shouldn't have to become a lawyer to save her innocent father. But she did because nobody else would. And here's what I keep thinking about. How many fathers are sitting in prison right now because their kids didn't have Jasmine's brilliance, didn't have her resources, didn't even know where to start? If this story moved you, share it. Someone needs to hear it today. Hit subscribe to Black Sage for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if this was your family? Jasmine now helps other families fight wrongful convictions. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the only telling the truth.